While we don't know exactly when Surface Duo 3 is actually coming, we suspect maybe as soon as this fall, although it may be even later than that. It might actually slip into the following year. I do know what I hope that it has in terms of features and changes, and in today's video, that's what we're going to cover. We're going to basically do Shane's wish list for Surface Duo 3. Now, there's going to be one glaring omission on this that I'm just not going to talk about that much because it's not really relevant, and it would be for it to remain a dual screen device. That would be number one on my list, but it seems as though that is not going to happen, so we're not going to spend a ton of time on that. But we can think of several other things that I wish that they were doing with Surface Duo 3, and so we can go through those and maybe have a little bit of fun with that. So let's start things off with kind of an obvious one for me, and that is charging speed. So Surface Duo 2 does not charge particularly slowly, right? Like it's not like a 15 watt charging. That's nothing ridiculous like that, but it is only 23 watts. And that just isn't very fast in terms of modern devices, okay? So devices like my Galaxy S23 Ultra charge at 45 watts. And of course, many other devices charge much, much, much faster than that. We're talking about a device, though, that is very, very thin, and that's going to lead to a lot of different sorts of things, right? For one, really fast charging generates a lot of heat, and if you're really thin, you just don't have a lot of places to put that heat, okay? So it can be hard to dissipate heat when you are this thin. So that may be why that isn't going to be a thing that's going to happen. They may not push that charging super, super high, but if they could get it to 40, 45 watts, that will be a really big improvement because of part two of the ramifications of being very thin, which is that you can't fit a very large battery inside this thing. If I'm reading here correctly, yeah, 49 milliamp hours. So only, let's call it 4,500 milliamp hour battery. That sounds quite large, but when you factor in that it's a tablet, it has a gigantic screen, well, that battery life does start to suffer a little bit because of that. So faster charging would be a really good way around this because, yeah, okay, the battery life isn't amazing, but if you can plug it in and get half your battery back in 10 minutes, then it's not really going to be that big of a deal. And we can parlay that into another thing that's going to happen, and that is to have an updated system on a chip. We are running the Snapdragon 888, which is not a slow processor. But when you stack it up against things like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 that is in something like the S23 Ultra, it is beginning to really show its age, not just in performance where things aren't radically different, but in efficiency. That is the place where this thing needs to make the biggest gains. If we're going to have a premium product, we need a premium processor with that premium level of efficiency. We all saw the coverage of the S23 Ultra and about how this thing's battery life is just far improved over the S22. I experienced it myself. That thing's battery life is unbelievable. So we could have something like that, something that efficient in this device with faster charging to really kind of round things out. This thing could really start to be a massive improvement over Duo 2. So the next one's also pretty obvious. We have to keep reducing the bugs. There are still just too many bugs and too many weird things about this device that to this day drive me a little bit crazy that they're going to have to figure out. Now, a good thing is that if they can just go to one big screen, I guess that will make things a bit easier, a few less moving parts, I guess, but there are just still too many weird things. Let me show you one of the ones that lately, I don't know how this has still not been fixed, and it is probably the thing that drives me the craziest about Duo right now. Maybe you can relate to this. So if we're on our Surface Duo and we swipe down, you get your little universal search. You can search for contacts, for apps, for settings, and it works really well, but I use it a lot to do web searches. So let's try something here. And you can see that it is actually functioning for a web search right now. It always opens it on the opposite screen, which is annoying, but whatever. Okay, but that is functioning, and that is good. But about 90% of the time I go to do this, web search just is not functioning. It does nothing. Nothing pops up, and you can't do it. So then I think, well, okay, I'll have a search bar over here, whether it's a search bar in Edge, whether it's Bing, it's Google. Every time you use this, when you click on it, it's going to open your browser on this other side. And if I bring it over here, okay, then it's going to open it up on the right side. But it's just annoying that it doesn't. This should open up Edge or your search on this screen. Why is it opening it over here? That does not make any sense. Why does the search stop working at random? That does not make any sense. It's been going on for months, and there's obviously there are still more bugs like that to talk about. I'm sure you have your favorite pet bug. You can comment down below. There are still too many. They have got to get that stuff straightened out. And we cannot have something be broken for 6 or 7 months without being fixed. I'm talking about you, Xbox Game Pass app. Why are you still not fully fixed for everyone? I don't understand this. They've got to get this part right. Now, I know that this next part might put some of you to sleep, but it's an important one for me, and it's an important one for the market they're trying to break into. They have to improve the camera. And there are several ways they need to improve the camera, okay? So they could go the obvious route and just have higher resolution sensors, and that might help a bit, but I really don't think that's what they need to focus on. They need to actually increase the size of the sensors if they can, but more even than that, the performance in the camera app. It is just too laggy at times. The performance is just not good enough actually taking photos. The frequency with which I open this thing up and I go to launch the camera app, and it's just a little bit slow. Okay, there we go. I take a picture. I go to change a lens. It's slow. It's laggy. If you try to do anything quickly in this thing, you can see how it's just really stuttery and just doesn't move quickly. And the harder you push it, the worse that stuff gets. I have missed shots because of it being laggy and weird. It's already hard to open it up and get it ready to take a picture without the app acting stupid on top of all of that. That stuff has got to get ironed out, and it has gotten better, but it's still not good enough. But there's tons of other things about the camera that they need to improve. Okay, how about the 2x telephoto lens? We can just get rid of that altogether. If we're going to only do 2x, we might as well not even have that lens and maybe save some cost or something. If you're not going to do at least 3x, it's not worth doing. And I know you're probably thinking that sounds crazy, but I can show you. All right, so we are in our camera app now, and we're going to take a quick photo. Then we're going to go to the 2x, and we're going to zoom in and take that photo. And now we're going to compare the two. You can see the camera app here is very, very stuttery, and I don't know if it actually even took that second picture. It did, but it's rotated for some reason. This is exactly the kind of stuff that we're talking about, guys. Why would that happen? Let's try and take it again. Okay, now we're okay. Camera app is lagging heavily. And let's just digitally crop in to match. Do these look like wildly different images to you? Does the telephoto shot look considerably better than the one that we just digitally cropped in on? No, it really doesn't. I mean, it looks better, but it's not a lot better. There's a reason so few companies are still using a 2x telephoto on any of their phones, because digital zoom has gotten so good. Keep in mind, that's me pinching to zoom in after the fact. Phones like every other phone that has computational photography, which is every other phone, if you digitally crop in before you take the picture, it's going to actually even take a better zoomed in photo than that. Again, no one uses these anymore. The Z Fold got rid of theirs last year. We need to get rid of ours too. They're almost useless. The last thing I'll say on the camera front, because I know you guys are probably sick of hearing me talk about the camera, is the focus distance, all right? I love taking macro photos, and this thing, I feel like I've got to be about 8 feet away from the subject to get a picture that's in focus. Let me get closer, okay? Just let me get a little bit closer, like on every other flagship. Thank you. That's all I want. Now, I said we weren't going to talk about the dual screen thing very much. This is the portion where we're going to kind of touch on that stuff a bit, okay? If we're going to leave the world of dual screens behind and we're going to go to a single folding OLED device, you're going to have to give me a software experience that I would consider to be a world-class multitasking experience, okay? It's got to be something that can emulate what we have here. And like I've said on this channel before, Android does not see 2 screens, they see 1 screen, and this is software creating the experience where apps launch on 2 different screens. This could be something they could do on a single screen quite easily. Perhaps there's a quick toggle. Put a button on the thing. Let me press a button that changes it between duo mode and tablet mode. Let me switch back and forth between the two. That would be really, really cool. The way I try and frame it in my mind is basically this. On the Z Fold device, when you launch an app, it launches by default in spanned mode. I'm doing air quotes there. A mode where it covers the entire screen, okay? On Duo, things launch automatically in split screen mode. Of course, Z Fold can split screen, but it defaults to full screen. This defaults to split screen. That's really all you need to do to kind of to conceptualize this in your head. Let us toggle back and forth between the two, and let us keep that world-class multitasking experience alive. Something else that we're gonna have to really think about though, if we go to a single folding OLED screen, is inking support, right? So having the Surface Pen Digitizer in this device is a big deal for a lot of people. We've got to have that on Duo 3. There's no way they can just say, well, yeah, but this one doesn't have pen support. That would be crazy. We got to have pen support on this thing, even though I don't care much about it because I can barely write my own name with a pen, but a lot of people really care. It's a big deal for the Surface line. It has to be there. And personally, I would love to see a Surface Pen made specifically for this device, something that is thinner, lighter, and easier to keep with the device. The little magnetic case that you stick the pen to, I don't think that's a good solution. I don't want to see that again next year. That cannot be what we're doing. And again, if we're going to a single folding OLED device, we're going to have a cover display, okay? This is not going to be a device that's going to fold 360, so you cannot use part of the screen as your cover display. So there's going to have to be a cover display on there. And when they do this, this is going to speak not just to the cover display, but to the internal displays. Please keep it shorter and wider. That's one of the things Duo fans really love about this device, is that it's not a candy bar. It's not tall and thin. Keep the thing like this. Now, I know that if you do that, it might increase the price a little bit because you're going to have a wide, short panel on the front that is going to have to be custom cut. But if you can do it without making this thing $1,800, please do that instead. Keep it a little bit different. Keep it shorter and wider. Do kind of what the Pixel is doing with the Pixel Fold. And I think that your Duo fans are going to appreciate that a lot. And in the same vein as we were just talking, if we can use one of the same hinge designs that companies like Oppo and Google are using versus the ones we saw in the Fold 1 through 4, that would be great as well. Let's let this thing fold flat and let's keep that crease nice and hard to see. Guys, this is a topic I could probably ramble on about for way too long, so I'm just going to stop here while I'm ahead. You could drop some comments down below about what is on your Surface Duo 3 wish list. I would like to be able to read those myself. Subscribe for more content just like this. I will see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.